Now, this is actually one of my favorite quotes. Again, as a pilot, I like my aviation kind of ideas here. You see, headwinds mean everything to a pilot. Headwinds can dictate our route of flight, the altitude we fly at, the amount of fuel we have to carry, our speed, the amount of time. Headwinds even can predict the trajectory of my weapons in combat. Now, as pilots, we have a saying when we want to wish somebody well. We say, I wish you blue skies and tailwinds, because arguably blue skies and tailwinds are the most wonderful weather that you can have. Wouldn't it be great if life was all blue skies and tailwinds? But we know that that's not true, right? Because headwinds are always going to come into our lives. Headwinds come along and they force us to change direction. They can cost us time. They can cost us energy. And at their very worst, headwinds, just like for pilots, can even take away options. But as I have you thinking about this idea of headwinds, I want to tell you there's 2 times that pilots always seek out headwinds, and that's for takeoff and landing. Now, takeoff and landing are arguably the most risky phases of flight, but we will always turn into headwinds for takeoff and landing for a very important reason. By turning into the headwinds, it makes the transition smoother, easier, more efficient, and actually a heck of a lot safer. So it's with this idea, this metaphor, right, of headwinds in our personal and professional lives. It's a mindset that says we don't turn away from those headwinds, we turn into them, we deal with them, and we harness them in a way that's going to help us and our teams. And I have found across my career that headwinds tend to come from 3 different places. The first is those moments we have to overcome self-doubt and show courage. The second are those moments where there's organizational or cultural change around us, which I think we can agree we're all experiencing here in 2020. And the third is what I like to call the headwind of the universe, when we are all approached by the unexpected, things we couldn't have predicted but that we're forced to deal with. So I'm going to follow that outline today, and we'll discuss those headwinds and hopefully, again, give you a little bit of a paradigm shift so that maybe you can look at the challenges you face in a slightly different, more positive and more proactive way. But before I do that, I thought it would be cool to watch a flying video, because whenever a fighter pilot or a Thunderbird pilot comes to a speech, people are like, do you got any flying video? So I agree, flying video is cool, but there is a point to this. This right here frame is of me in my jet. I flew Thunderbird number 3, the right wing position, in 2006 and 2007. And I was approached by people a lot who said, you know, Nicole, wow, to become a fighter pilot and a Thunderbird pilot, you must just somehow be naturally gifted. It must have just been smooth sailing for you, because you don't reach that level of elite performance unless you're just naturally gifted. And I would laugh at that, because the fact of the matter is that the path to success for any one person, any team, is always going to be riddled with twists and turns. There's going to be bumps and bruises along the way, and there's going to be headwinds along the way. And my path to the cockpit of this beautiful red, white, and blue F-16 you see on the screen was no different. I had to harness headwinds in a certain way to get there. So this video is about 1.5 minutes long. It was taken my very first year on the team. Again, that is me in the right wing position. About 50% of the in-cockpit video that you'll see comes from inside my jet. So I hope you enjoy. Now, I think even through the internet, I heard a few of you gasping there at the end when all the planes crossed over. That's actually called the bomb burst hit. And a lot of people think that we have autopilot or something that's helping us, make that happen. And I'll be honest with you, it's actually all just mind decisions and throttle and stick from each individual pilots. And there was actually a few times that we would cross so closely, you could even feel each other's wake turbulence. And in those moments, I sometimes gasped too, the same as you. But I hope you enjoyed that video. Now, let's talk about the first headwind, right, of overcoming self-doubt and having to show a little bit of courage. The fact of the matter is that I almost never became an Air Force Thunderbird pilot at all because I was too afraid to try. I was too afraid to fail. I was too afraid of what other people would think. You see, in the Air Force, it's pretty improbable that anyone would become an Air Force Thunderbird pilot. Just for some context, in your active duty Air Force today, there's 12,000 pilots. Of those, about 3,000 are fighter pilots, and of those, only six, have the opportunity on any given year to fly as an Air Force Thunderbird pilot. Now, I had wanted to become a fighter pilot since I was 5. But what you don't know is that I grew up in Las Vegas, Nevada. Yes, there are people from Las Vegas, Nevada, believe it or not. But the beauty of that city is that it's home to Nellis Air Force Base. And Nellis Air Force Base is actually the home of the Air Force Thunderbirds. And so as a young kid, I remember taking my brown bag lunch out onto the playground during school, eating my peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and just watching these Thunderbirds fly. And in the back of my mind, I thought that would be so cool to do someday. But I knew it was hard. It's hard enough to become a fighter pilot in the Air Force. It's even harder and statistically improbable that anyone would become a Thunderbird pilot.